environment. Hey, it just sounds to me like, you need to unplug, man. Get some R&R. Hey, what do you think, DeShore? Do we take him with us?
Definitely.
I can't. I have work tomorrow.
Why? It'll be fun. I promise.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole.
You could say that.
The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, what's that, a rabbit hole? Oh, let's see how deep it goes.
Ample funding from the Canadian government, a CIA front group, and foundations like the Rockefeller and Ford Foundations to test out his sensory deprivation theories on graduate student volunteers at McGill.
Looks to me like he's been in an accident.
No, this is an experiment that took place at McGill University. Students volunteered to participate in this study of human behavior under extreme and prolonged monotony.
They were isolated and immobilized in a small lit cubicle, their arms placed in large cardboard tubes up to the fingertips, with light diffusing goggles placed over their eyes. The little rooms were soundproof except for constant white noise generated by a small air conditioner. These conditions continued 24 hours a day, even at mealtimes. It didn't take long for the subjects in Hebb's black box to break down. With Hebb writing of one man, the subject's very identity had begun to disintegrate. The extreme sensory deprivation of Hebb's experiment proved blatantly devastating. Few of the volunteers could take it for more than 2 or 3 days.
It was impossible for most of these students to take it for more than 24 or 48 hours.
At least 4 participants in Hebb's experiment openly referred to it as torture. The monotony from a lack of sensory stimulation amounted to much more than mere boredom. It unveiled a mind that lost complete touch with reality when it fell out of contact with it.
The psychologist D.O. Hebb and his associates who conducted these experiments found that deprived of ordinary, everyday sensory experiences, the subjects began to lose touch with reality.
Dr. Hebb discovered a clear threshold at which a man's mind, any mind, would break down within a matter of days. Many participants hallucinated within just 48 hours.
Those who stuck it out began to see things, hear things.
Some felt their heads had become disconnected from their body. Others felt they had 2 bodies. One claimed he saw purposeful squirrels marching with sacks over their shoulders, while another claimed he'd been attacked by pellets fired from a miniature rocket ship. Hebb and his researchers concluded a changing sensory environment seems essential for human beings, noting that without it, a major breakdown in thought processes akin to a psychotic break could be quickly achieved in just a few simple, inexpensive steps.
They had also discovered that a total lack of sensory stimuli made a person highly suggestible, with long-lasting effects. Not only were Hebb and his team able to make their subjects believe in ghosts, poltergeists, and outlandish stories after spending time in sensory deprivation isolation, but even weeks later, many of them retained their fear of the paranormal, often in spite of their previous beliefs. The implications for brainwashing, indoctrination, and re-education were staggering.
One of them was Dr. Maitland Baldwin, a protege of Hebb and Penfield's who also studied removal of the brain at McGill. Baldwin was known for his bizarre monkey experimentation, which involved giving LSD to monkeys after surgically removing portions of their brains. He also transplanted the head of one monkey onto the body of another, that kind of stuff. He not only continued Hebb's sensory deprivation experiments, but pushed them much, much farther, although he admitted that anything beyond 2 days would likely cause irreparable psychological damage, something Baldwin discovered while at the National Institute of Mental Health, when he placed an Army volunteer in a specially designed box and witnessed the man break down into heart-rending sobs before kicking his way out after just 40 hours.
All you have to do is let things happen.
Hypnosis rolled over into the group's second presentation on the conditioned reflex, presented by psychologist Howard Liddell, who established Cornell University's Behavior Farm Laboratory, where irrational stimulus and response patterns were found to trigger artificial neurosis in sheep and other animals. A devotee of Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov, Howard Liddell used the techniques of conditioned response that Pavlov had developed.
I'm myself somewhat of a disciple of Pavlov.
To study the conditions between the central nervous system and emotions. These experiments proved that motivations like hunger could be exploited, and the psychological response to stimulus, whether pain, fear, or reward, could be gamed to create experimentally induced neuroses, which is little different than torture.
An opportunity to probe into the brain.
Mapping the relaxed states of mind characterized by alpha waves, and Walter was the first to experimentally produce changes in brain waves through the use of flickering light.
Now I'm going to flash a bright light at you. Keep your eyes closed. And please try not to move. That's good.
Gray Walter had also worked closely with Norbert Wiener, introducing him in the early 30s to the then mysterious field of brainwave interpretation.
For each stimulus to a sense organ starts not one, but a train of impulses which are easily followed electrically with a cathode ray or other oscillograph.
The discussion began at von Neumann's request, a conversation about consciousness as to whether there is an anatomical substrate for what has everybody knowing things. Von Bonnen held it was probably not cerebral cortex that determined awareness, but more likely something in the midbrain. And I suggested the importance of the thalamus. Fremont Smith went into the different degrees of consciousness from full attention through twilight states to sleep and hysterical amnesias. Molly Harrower described the stimulation of the cortex she witnessed under Dr. Penfield, which did not disturb the patients, yet threw them into a panic when stimulation caused vocalization resembling speech. The distinction between consciousness and awareness.
Time Dr. Jose Delgado stepped into the ring. He didn't need the customary red cape anymore. Only a remote control.
Neurophysicist Dr. Jose Delgado was financed by the Office of Naval Research.
Delgado had implanted a series of electrodes into the aggression center of a bull's brain. And then he invited the press.
The electrodes are attached to a small transistorized electrical stimulator, which is cemented to the bull's skull. The electrical stimulator in the skull responds to radio stimulation, so the bull is literally subject to remote control.
Delgado has remote control of the animal.
When the remote control apparatus is operated and the bull's caudate nucleus is stimulated, the bull becomes non-aggressive.
Stopping the charging animal now only required the push of a button.
According to Marcuse, inner freedom designates the private space in which man may become and remain himself. Today, this private space has been invaded and whittled down by technological reality.
The techno-matador spectacle, which made headline upon controversial headline in 1966, was meant to shock people, to put humans in their place. But at this point in his career, Dr. Delgado was just showing off his ability to remote control the bull. He had been implanting electrodes in different centers of the brain since the early 1950s. By demonstrating that he could turn a bull on and off like a toy, In what observers could have been forgiven for mistaking as high-tech voodoo, Delgado apparently fancied himself the ultimate matador.
Recently released CIA documents refer to the feasibility of remote control of animals, and that special investigations will be conducted toward the application of selected elements of these techniques to man.
But the good doctor was only one of a network of neurophysiologists and psychiatrists running parallel research programs across the U.S. and the world. Cybernetician Warren McCullough was also among the earliest pioneers of deep electrode stimulation in the 30s at the Yale Laboratory of Neurophysiology, establishing the profound connection between the thalamus buried inside the brain and the outer sensory cortex that Wilder Penfield first explored.
The master control for the whole body resides in the brain, and the new methodology of implanted electrodes has provided direct access to the centers which regulate most of the body's activities.
But by the end of the half-century mark, things were honed into an operable science, and McGill would once again prove to be groundbreaking in decoding the inner brain. While Professor Donald Hebb was busy exploring the mechanisms of neural networks and the effects of isolation upon the mind, in part for the CIA, his postdoctoral students James Olds and Peter Milner were stumbling upon their own findings, which would prove to be pivotal. Although it had been accidental at first, Olds and Milner had discovered the so-called pleasure center of the brain through an extension of the technique Wilder Penfield first developed.
A new window on the brain was opened in 1953, when a rat fortuitously evidenced a neuro-rewarding effect. By returning to the place where he had been when an electrical stimulus was applied to the brain via chronically implanted electrodes.
In terms of conditioned behavior, this electrically induced reward became an end unto itself. In 1954, Olds created a reward map of the brain featuring locations where electrical stimulation caused mammals to come back for more. The reward map held true for rats, cats, monkeys, and humans. By 1961, James Olds, who'd been attending Macy's sister conferences on the central nervous system during the late 50s alongside Frank Fremont Smith, Howard Liddell, and other cybernetics acolytes, made history after he implanted an electrode into the pleasure center of a lab rat's brain and conditioned it to trigger its own self-satisfying electrical stimulation.
This is the device which trains the animal to turn on the stimulus for himself. Here you notice the animal wandering toward the pedal. When he first touches it, he gets no stimulation. It's not connected yet.
By pressing a simple lever.
Then one time he touches the pedal, it does turn on the stimulation. You can see the lights go on.
Within this cybernetic loop of electric stimulus and reward, Olds and Milner's experimental rats quickly succumbed to self-stimulating their own brains repeatedly, thousands of times, foregoing their own natural drives for hunger, sex, and even willingly enduring immense pain.
Now, I will electrify the grid. The animal must cross an area that gives a very painful shock to the feet in order to get to the pedal and stimulate the brain.
Rats implanted with these electrodes continued to push and push and push the lever again and again and again, even until the point of death, just to receive this stimulating electrical reward. Clearly, these researchers had uncovered something with far-reaching implications.
This shows a rat is willing to pay a very high price in order to get to the pedal.
In 1953, this series of therapeutic research experiments was conducted by Dr. Robert Heath of Tulane University. His subjects responded to electrical stimulation of isolated brain centers implanted with electrodes. We see here the possibility for direct physical manipulation of the mind and personality.
Feel good, do you think? Or if you do it too much, does it have any bad effects on you?
No bad effects at all.
Most of the scientists who conduct these experiments say that because they do not yet understand enough about the brain, these techniques should not be used on humans. But this man says they should. He is Dr. Robert Heath of Tulane University Medical School in New Orleans.
Yeah, I just feel like I don't have any thoughts like a human being. I'm just an animal walking around on the earth. please don't do me like this. Please don't. I can't stand it. I don't like to feel like this.
Now look at that smile you got now.
Why does that make me do that? I don't like to do that.
You really told me off, remember?
I know I did, but I couldn't help it.
Behavior. This took on a decided focus with Dr. Heath's obsession over the septal area, a rather pliable part of the limbic system near the amygdala, where he believed schizophrenics may have had an imbalance, and where he found excitatory pleasure and inhibitory pain could be systematically elicited on an electrode's command.
Now, as a patient in a New Orleans hospital, he has had electrodes implanted deep within his brain for a year and a half. In that time, he has been given a new personality.
Dr. Heath paralleled in the human mind the old concept of the self-stimulating rat, in some cases turning over the control to his electrode-implanted mental patients.
Dr. Heath inserted electrodes in the region of her brain he thought might be associated with pleasure.
Who quickly learned that they could mitigate pain or induce a deep-seated pleasure or even sexual arousal with the push of a button.
Find this button there.
That's number 2 button.
Most pleasurable.
How do you feel? You're trying to tell me how it excites you, is that it?
Oh, I think it's somewhat of a sexy button.
By placing electrodes deep within the brain, investigators, including Dr. Jose Delgado of Yale University, have located precise regions that activate emotions such as fear and rage, and basic drives such as hunger and sex. Electrodes can carry currents into the brain and allow the scientists to control behavior.
By the end of the 50s, the art of brain stimulation had advanced from long, conspicuous wire leads to more discreet remote control technology, and Delgado had virtually mastered an elaborate program of behavior modifications which he demonstrated in his monkeys.
The motor cortex is probably like a large keyboard, able to play the strings of muscular contraction and to produce movements.
In his Yale laboratory, Dr. Delgado has gone even further. By pushing a button, he controls life in a colony of monkeys. He can direct their behavior and change the neatly ordered structure of their society.
Delgado could turn everything from emotions to actions on and off like a light switch. Flipping it on, Delgado could, for example, adjust the diameter of a monkey's pupil as if it were the iris of a camera, constricting one eye and dilating the other with great precision by varying signal strength sent to the hypothalamus. Anger, arousal, fear, or sleep could be dialed up just as easily. He called his device a stimoceiver.
We are used to the idea that machines can be controlled from a distance by means of radio signals. Garage doors can be opened or closed. Channels and volume of a TV set can be adjusted from an armchair. Even orbiting capsules can be directed from tracking stations on Earth. But perhaps it is still surprising to learn that we may also control the biological functions of living organisms from a distance.
Newspapers both repulsed and gripped the public with just how much control a little electricity had upon the brain. Dr. Delgado found his stimocievers could even induce mothers to ignore their young on command. The electrode signals were so compelling and so precise, in fact, that Delgado was able to reliably provoke a single monkey into carrying out a complex series of 12 actions that led to attacking a rival monkey. When a computer-programmed signal was sent to the monkey's stimoceiver, the monkey predictably carried out the same sequence of actions in the exact same order every single time, 20,000 times in a row.
Cats, monkeys, or human beings can be induced to flex a limb, to reject food, or to feel emotional excitement under the influence of electrical impulses reaching the depths of their brains through radio waves purposely sent by an investigator.
Just to make a point, Delgado also turned the controls over to the colony as well, and the normally subservient monkeys were able to push a button and suppress the aggression of the most dominant one, and freely roam around his territory and even mock him to his face, demonstrating that brain stimulation could upend order in the primate world. But of course, Delgado's ambitions weren't ultimately focused just on the primate world.
So isn't that MK Ultra stuff kind of crazy? I spoke about it a little bit in my last two videos, which my last one was just kind of showing some extras I could have put in the previous video, and there was just so much stuff on this topic, and I found so much more, so I'm going to cover it even deeper because it's kind of a topic too that you don't see many people talking about, because you got the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, and the land's going to be desolate, and you don't hear anyone speaking about the bride in this topic. And you know, these videos kind of bring light to this topic. So, and the next couple clips I'm going to show you, it's going to make more connections with Kristen Stewart and Trump, and oddly enough.
So what did you say your name was? Howard. Fortunate? And your father? Rodney Fortunate. Is he here? He's in Bermuda, actually. I don't think I can have his party if he's here. Yeah. All right. Have fun, kid.
Keep this incredible house or building or whatever you want to call it, because there really is no name for it. It is special. And we keep it in tip-top shape. We call it sometimes tippy-top shape, and it's a great, great place. The sidewalks smell. It's a horrible thing. The federal government has to take it over and do everything that has to be done, and it has to be tippy-top. It has to be perfect, and bring it back and...
Some sort of I'm an artichoke. I have layers.
Artichokes are great.
I'm an artichoke. I have layers.
Artichokes are great.
You're not going to be as effective. Dude, there's nothing stronger on the planet than the Special Forces ODA, the A-Team.
What does ODA mean?
Operational Detachment Alpha. The A-Team.
We just told him how much he does, and he just left.
Yeah,
he's gone.
He
went, wow.
Tim, come back.
He didn't realize it.
We'll let you go hunting.
He's been in a trance his entire career.
Well, you know, like, we toe the line. You know, you tell us what to do, especially in special operations. We're fire and forget. You say, go do this. We're going to go do it better than you would have, you know, imagined it to be possible. And we're going to stay quiet about it.
Who wrote the text for this feature?
Me. I did.
Does this look accurate to you?
Yes.
So isn't it kind of funny? You got that tippy top, and then you got Trump saying it twice, and you got it with the bunny the first time. That's kind of like Alice in Wonderland programming with the MK Ultra. And that's part of the programming, Alice in Wonderland. You got the still Alice, and then with the gematria, or so tippy top, and then you're fired, obviously, you know, with Trump, and then Presidential Records Act. And you gotta, unless you live under a rock, you gotta know what that is. They've been talking about it 24/7, it seems like. And then you got the upcoming storm. It's all kind of like Q stuff you see. And if you notice that Project A-Team, and then those couple clips from Equals, you've seen the A circled, so letting you know, like that Project Artichoke, and you know, the mind control. The whole movie is like mind control too. And you're gonna see in the next clip from that movie, you're gonna see the X programming. If you see my Twitter X movie or video. And I cover the movie 1984, where they make an X with their arms and raise them up. Well, if you remember about the snake on the pole Jesus spoke about, well, think if you make an X crossing your arms and lift them up, if you're standing in front of a pole, put a nail in there, You got the X marking the spot. You got the snake on the pole. You get what they're pre-programming there. And so you're gonna see in the clip there's gonna be an X, and he's gonna go up and put his hand up to it with like his palm. So it's like the nail going through it, kind of. And then I'm gonna show you her then getting pulled away with one on each side with an X on their back. And it's kind of like the two pillars, which I'll show you from Snow White, where there's a pillar on each side with X's on them, and then she stands up holding the stick, and you know that's like the Joshua, the stick plucked out of the fire. And now when you read here in Revelation 3, so unto the messenger of the ecclesia group in Philadelphia, right? The Holy One, the true one, the one having the key of David, the one opening and nobody can shut it, except he who opens, nor is anybody able to open, says these things. And I remember how this begins. So the revelation of Jesus, and he tells you that he comes in the clouds, all eyes will see him, and then you got the Lord God who is, who was, and who is coming. So he is living, he was dead, and he is coming. Because John says he arrived in the agency of the Spirit in the Lord's day. That's that day of Yahweh. That's when you heard the voice behind him. Now is that one who was living, who was dead. See, I am the living one. I became dead, and see now I live. And he has the keys. That's that Ephraim. He's resurrected, given preeminence. So that's him speaking. I know your works. See now, I have given you in your sight an open door, and nobody is able to shut it, because you have a little strength, and you kept my word, and you did not deny my name. As you will see, I will cause those from the synagogue of the enemy, and this is translated bad right here, like every translation gets this one wrong. Those declaring themselves to be Judahites, and I should say it like this, and are nothing but deceivers. Look it up in the concordance, it can be translated like that. And as you will see, I will cause it that they should come and cower before your feet. Because look, the covenant's with the house of Israel and the house of Ephraim, or house of Joseph. And it's not with the house of Judah, but it does mention in Jeremiah that he does say that, go to them and call them, but, I wouldn't hold your breath for them all coming over, because it says, like they're basically not, but who knows, there might be a few, because look, they're going to come and cower. So, and know that I have loved you. So they're going to hate the queen, because you have kept the word of my endurance, because she's going to pronounce the king. I, for my part, will keep you from the hour of testing. That's, after her and the two witnesses are going to be resurrected. The three, I'm guessing, because 2 or 3 witnesses, and the way it reads in chapter 10 to chapter 11. But I am coming quickly, hold fast to what you have, in order that nobody might take away your crown. This could probably say her who comes off victorious. I will make a pillar in the sanctuary of my God. That God who is, who was, and who's coming. The one who's got the key, the one up here. That they're going to make a pillar for her, and she's already a pillar. So you got 2 pillars. And her, the queen, she will go out no more. And I will write on her the name of my God, and the name of the city of God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and my new name. She who has an ear, or he, let him hear what the Spirit says to the ecclesia groups.
It's okay, I can handle it.
Alright. Suit yourself.
So that was Camp X-Ray, and you know, also in that picture it looked like Princess Diana, and it's funny because down the road she did end up playing Princess Diana in a movie. And this is just number 36 I was going to show, because the daughters of the sons of Joseph, you know, he was mentioning how they should stay within their family for their inheritance, and the tribe of David is actually, you know, David is the tribe of Ephraim, that's of the families of Joseph. And there was that little Isabella connection from a couple of videos ago, and I think they put like descendant of Jesus, descendant of David, and, you know, the stuff that they were putting in their script.
Hey.
What's up?
471 still on his frequent flyer program?
Yeah.
So that 471, you see how God has set up 3 Israelites, and if you go to the Snow White Twilight video, one of the first things I show in there from the opening clip, he goes in front of the rose, gets cut, and there's 3 drops of blood. Right here you got 4 voices: the voice of mirth, voice of gladness, voice of the bridegroom, voice of the bride. So you got that rose, the bridegroom, and then the drop of blood with the voice of the bride, the other drop with the voice of myrrh, and the other drop with the voice of gladness.
Mecca?
I'm damn sure ain't putting the visit, man.
So notice those papers on the floor, they kind of look like documents, like the MK Ultra ones I just showed. And he mentioned about Disney World, and that's another famous spot where you hear about MK Ultra happening there. And he kind of laughs about it, and then you see those papers, so it's a pretty clear reference there. And then you see those pair of shoes, Amos 8:6. So that we can buy the impoverished for silver and a needy man for a pair of shoes, and sell the chaff of the wheat. Now this passage in Amos 8 talks about the sun going down at noon, and you know there's gonna be sackcloth on all loins, like a mourning for an only son, because he's gonna be killed there. That's why, you know, that 471 having the frequent flyer miles, because, you know, in Ephraim he's gonna run away at verse from Jeremiah 49 and then 50, because he runs away, but then when he comes back they run away and scatter, because he's that Revelation 12 sign with the woman with child. He's going to be killed, but he's going to fly away for the 1260 days, the frequent flyer miles. And then you got the 3 drops of blood. You know, the God has set up 3 Israelites. It goes with that Snow White. That last clip was literally at the end of the movie. There was only just over 3 minutes left. And she left, and this new guy is bringing a book to this guy, who used to call her Blondie. Funny how they got that Q, we go one, we go all stuff with her saying these people are sick. They'll say, oh, that's devil horns. Guess what? It's bunny ears. It's their handlers have them do these poses, and you know that she's got the Alice in Wonderland programming. Even the side of her old childhood home had the Queen of Hearts in it, and it's funny in Snow White that movie, the Queen screams like the Queen of Hearts would. And it's just funny with that Blondie also equaling that QAnon, and Goose, like the golden goose, and Twilight showing that goose. And then, her coat of arms with the goose, the pelican. And how it's just all kind of connected somehow.
Took this job before I finished law school. How'd you break your arm?
It was just my wrist. Running a broken horse.
Breaking horses. Is that part of your job?
So those movie clips were from certain women. So it's just like, you got Jesus speaking in parables, and now you got, them speaking in parables in their scripts going, oh, certain woman. And so she meets that girl in a class that she's teaching, and after class they would go to a diner and eat, and she never eats anything, if you notice that. And then she picked her up on the horse. Well, the next couple scenes I'm going to show is where she goes to the diner with her again, and you're going to hear about those shoes again. But then that girl's going to show up to the class again, and she actually quit that job, so she's not there, and that girl just walks out of the class before it even starts then. And she drives to go meet her in the different town, because she was actually driving a ways to get to that job, and she didn't like it. And that's kind of just like in the movie Twilight, where Bella goes shopping and gets a book out of town, and then Edward shows up and stops those guys from doing whatever they were going to do, and then they go out to eat, and he wouldn't eat anything. And, he sat there and read their minds while they were there. So she's kind of playing like Edward there. And see how she's that rider on the horse. And Edward's, like they have him kind of playing like a David in his role, because he flashes like lightning, how quick he moves, and he's strong, and he has those attributes.
Here, have some fun.
Why were you afraid of selling shoes?
Miss Travis found the drive from Livingston too arduous, so I'll take over the class for the rest of the term. I practice law here in town, and as some of you know, and the rest of you would find out soon enough, I am recently divorced.
Going to be showing X symbolism in Welcome to the Rileys, and then Personal Shopper. You're going to see a bunch of X's.
Is it a cross? Yeah. Has that always been there?
So if you watched Snow White, Twilight, you'd get the scene where she gets called Spider Monkey in Twilight, how it's a MK Ultra reference, and then from that movie American Ultra, how he's portrayed as a monkey, and then he kind of turns into a gorilla at the end of that movie before he starts to, do his task. Well, you're going to hear him doing some MK Ultra talking in this next scene with the gorillas.
I remember very well, thank you.
Where are they now? Where are the gorillas?
Well, they wander off further and further into the mountain, and it's difficult to monitor them.
We can't cancel the reporters.
We have contractual obligations. We need those gorillas to be there.
Just one quick question.
Now you're going to hear about mourning and sending the other one a sign, you know, an oath. And this is like an oath right here with their word that, hey, when you come off victorious, I will make you a pillar.
You're staying here to mourn.
No, I'm waiting. I told you I was waiting.
What are you waiting for?
So we made this oath. Whoever died first would send the other a sign.
And yet, he bore a strange ring. Two serpents with emerald eyes, one devouring, the other crowned with golden flowers.
The ring of Barahir. So Gandalf Greyhaim thinks he has found Isildur's heir, the lost king of Gondor. He is a fool. The line was broken years ago.
There will be no need. Once the sarcophagus is destroyed, DNA testing will be impossible. There is no way to prove a living family.
Medical skill, high-ranking positions throughout the church. This Council of Shadows tries to destroy proof of the bloodline. That throughout history, they seek out and kill the living descendants of Jesus Christ.
That's insane.
So that Lord of the Rings clip was talking about Aragorn. He had the ring with the snake devouring, and that's how they knew that he was the heir, and you know they were pretty pissed off about that, about him potentially have founding it, the heir, and then, but now she's got a snake devouring with the Ouroboros with the 8 tattooed on her, almost like a barcode. It's kind of funny how they're like scripting it, and then you got the X's on the wrist, like nails are gonna go on there, and they keep doing that in a few of the movies. It's just kind of an interesting little rabbit hole. Not saying that's like the real deal that it would happen that way, but you know, I'm following what I seen from the movie clips, and from, you know, when my water changed and I saw the pelican and the doves, and kind of how that coat of arms of hers kind of, you know, looks like that. So I feel like God's leading me to do this study this way. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, like, oh, she is. It's more so seeing this stuff as giving clues into seeing that, you know, there is a queen, and yeah, there's a heir for it. Just like in Numbers 36, the ones from the tribe of Joseph, which is, you know, King David is of the families of Joseph, and those women, they were supposed to stay with that tribe so they wouldn't lose their inheritance. And then, so it's kind of funny because, you know, they use that Isabella, how in the Gematria it says, you know, the line of David, you know, could be some wordplay that they're doing with it because they like to mock and stuff. But wouldn't that be something though if like she really was? Because like in the movie Snow White, the princess in the tower, but like this one would be the one under MK Ultra, not even knowing any better. But, you know, it's more likely, you know, it's probably some random woman that nobody knows. But it would be kind of funny though, because everyone in the Q movement that worships Trump already, you know, wants someone like her dead, and the other ones in Hollywood, which, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to condone anything they've done bad, that's for sure. But if they're under mind control, and you've seen all the stuff that they're capable of doing with mind control, so, who knows? Remember, Paul was, murdering Christians before he had his moment and was woken up. We still got the story to be told yet, so you see it says, you know, Jewish, but needs a better source. But we're gonna dig deeper into it, because check it out. So I'm just thinking Isaiah 11. So, he will not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor administer judgment by the hearing of his ears. So look, sometimes things aren't always what they seem on the surface. She's going to tell you what the source is in this next clip. And the source is 23andMe. And you can tell she doesn't even know if it's true or not, just by the way she's speaking. And she even kind of seems a little nervous about it, because she kind of like picks up her skirt. And but 23andMe isn't a good source.
Are you Jewish?
So I did 23andMe, and I'm 24% Ashkenazi Jew.
Oh, you are?
My mom was adopted, so we just didn't know.
You don't know what you are?
But she was adopted by Ben and Norma Ehrman in Van Nuys, California in 1953. So I was like, Mom, I'm pretty sure that they probably would have, at that stage, adopted a fellow Jew. And
Right.
I could be wrong about that, maybe not. But I feel like back in the day, people were quite, I don't know.
Huh.
Anyway, it's on her side, and I'm thrilled. And like now I'm, you know.
I wanted to see what would happen if I sent my pet lizard DNA into 23andMe. And so with the help of my wife, we extracted enough saliva to send off in the mail. We were so excited to see the results. After about 3 months, we were shocked. My lizard was 51% Ashkenazi Jewish. He was also 48% West Asian. This was really interesting. They also gave us a little bit of his background and his history, what he liked to eat, etc. Let us know which animal's DNA we should send in next.
Hello?
Nathan, I've got something you need to see. I found this site that shows you what missing kids might look like today.
Better make sure you're looking closely.
Why would my picture end up on our missing persons website?
If this is for real, then who are those people living in your house?
So what if actually her mom was abducted and that adoption was a hoax? Because she has no clue about her mom's, you know, upbringing, who her real parents were. And now, and her mom, you know, in their childhood home had the Alice in Wonderland with that programming. Her mom was probably kidnapped and put in MK Ultra. Who knows? Anything, you know, is possible with you know, Jewish people. You don't know. But when she was young, her family relocated to Colorado and lived there for several years before moving back to Los Angeles. Her career began after an agent noticed her performing in a Christmas play when she was 8 years old, after a non-speaking part in a Disney TV movie. I think what we saw with that Disney in that Project or Camp X-Ray movie, and talked about the Disney, and I mentioned how that's like a hub for, you know, MK Ultra, and maybe something happened when they were in Colorado. Who knows?
When are you gonna go back to Denver?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I could go back to my fiance.
Fiance?
He's a sailor. He's been away a while. He's nice.
That's good.
When are you gonna go back to Denver? Remember, she moved to Colorado when she was younger from LA and then went back to LA. That's from the movie On the Road. And it's kind of funny too because my grandma's maiden name is Sailor. But you're gonna see something about a Golgotha that is gonna be mentioned in the next clip from On the Road, and it's mentioned in crucifixion passages.
Rather drag a rotten railroad tied to a Golgotha in the Rockies. Rather crowned with thorns in Galveston, nailed hand and foot in Los Angeles, raised up to die in Denver, pierced in the side in Chicago, perished, entombed in New Orleans, and resurrected somewhere on Garrett Mountain.
When are you gonna go back to Denver?
I don't know.
Hand and foot in Los Angeles, raised up to die in Denver.
La montagne est ma tombe. Je suis le souffle de Dieu, je monte et je descends. Je veux le ciel, la terre me veut. Les étoiles me tirent par les cheveux et les clous du cercueil me tiennent par les pieds. Les ténèbres me crient à bas et les soleils me disent debout. Je suis l'inconsolé de l'horizon. Je suis le veilleur de nuit, l'innombrable tombeau, vidant ses yeux dans les crânes vides. Je suis le causeur des mauvais rêves.
That last one was from Personal Shopper, and as you see again, nails in the feet, and then about the sun rising. That's just like a reference for the Son of Man, and then you hear the skull, and think the Golgotha, it's that hill of the skulls. So it's just another connection with that last movie. Kind of funny that the two dogs, Bella and Alex, and Bella, from Twilight. I don't know about Alex, but maybe there's something to it, but I didn't really see much in here for it. But maybe someone will latch onto Lucifer, but I guess I see like Joshua and stuff. Think like the Snow White with where she stood up between the pillars with the stick, and that stick plucked out of the fire. There's Joshua in that passage. And the key, which from the Twilight movie, shoots a key handed to her. And I Am Batman, a Trump reference, because there's a clip of Trump saying I am Batman, and Christian Bale kind of plays his character in the predictive programming, just like in the Prestige, where he pulls off his stunt with a twin. And then the last clip I'm gonna show is from the movie What Just Happened. Like, she's hardly in it. Like, I think Robert De Niro picks her up once, and then like she goes to a funeral later in it, and there's a scene I'll show with a dog in it, and it kind of looks like my dog, a Dogo Argentino.
I'm not getting ready. You think I care about me? You think it's me I care about? It's you I'm worried about. Your salvation. Father, forgive them, they know not what they do.